I think we've kind of run out of time now anyway.
Okay.
I did have some more things to talk about, but I think I'll leave those out. I will say though, we are trying as an organisation to make progress on these issues. It isn't easy. It really is not easy. You get death threats, you get attacks, you get people ringing your wife and saying they're not going to talk to her again unless the husband leaves the organisation he works for. You have all sorts of things happening to you. And the way we see it, this is a battle we can't afford to lose. And if we don't fight the battle, no one else is going to fight the battle. So we do not see ourselves, we hope we're not, having delusion of grandeur here, but we do see ourselves as the vanguard in Britain, at least, in this battle against conservative forces, against extremist forces who are determined to not make any progress, and not allow others to make any progress. At the same time, we're battling non-Muslims who are so keen to defend the conservative forces, and quite happy to see, it's called it monkeys in the zoo mentality, it's quite happy to see Muslims, for them the only real Muslim is an angry Muslim. And I compare it to, if you went to Portugal on holiday and you were walking through a beautiful Portuguese village, very traditional restaurants, and suddenly you see McDonald's and KFC and Pizza Hut, it's almost like, ooh, that's not authentic. And I think that's the mentality non-Muslims have towards Muslims. And they see a Muslim who's adapted, who's integrated, who's modern, like, oh, that's not a real Muslim. We want the angry one with a beard who's cursing for our So that kind of works against us. So before we move to Q&A, my only plea would be, these battles are going on. They're going on the internet, on Twitter, on Facebook. Do join in, because there is a desperate need for more people, more sensible, intelligent people to step forward and be counted. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, I was interested in your comments on the Jesus and Mo cartoon, because there's a bit of anxiety, uncertainty in this society about how this should be handled, this particular issue. Anyway, I expect there'll be questions on that or other issues here, yes?
Do you want to say something about what's happening in schools that have majority Muslim pupils? And do you know anything more about what's happening in Birmingham schools?
Well, both Usama and I are right now in discussions with some former heads of schools in Birmingham. We've actually reached out to us last week and said we need to speak to. We're supposed to meet today actually, we might end up meeting tomorrow in Birmingham. And according to them, this has been going on since 1994. So it's not new at all, it just hit the media recently. Now, there was a dossier discovered called Operation Trojan Horse, which sounds kind of too good to be true in some respect. But from people I've spoken to, people who are very well positioned to know the facts, regardless of whether the dossier is authentic, what it describes is happening on the ground. As in, there is an attempt by a small, very conservative, almost militant Muslims to take over, to de facto take over of state-run schools and impose a very harsh conservative interpretation on pupils. So it is happening. There was an article in today's Telegraph where parents spoke out and said, my kids are being brainwashed. They're being taught anti-Americanism. They're being in assemblies, segregated assemblies, segregated classrooms. They're also forced to cover their hair. They're encouraged to, but you can't really not do it in that environment. It's kind of a de facto forced. They're being given, having extremist speakers being brought into assembly to give the typical anti-tablet type rant, which is not what young kids should be exposed to. So it is happening. It's very real that it's happening. I don't know if that phenomenon is happening anywhere outside of Birmingham, to my knowledge. It could be, I don't know if it is. It's definitely happening in parts of Birmingham. But the good thing is it's been exposed. They're arguing that Birmingham City Council is conducting a quite wide-ranging investigation. DFE is sending in inspectors on a regular basis. One I know personally, who was quite shocked by what he saw at school. So it is very real, is what I can say. How to resolve that problem, I don't know. But that's as much as I can say.
Chris, yes?
Why is the Quilliam Foundation giving speaking tours to Tommy Robinson, the ex-leader of the EDL?
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, okay, so at Quilliam we're actually very proud to have helped Tommy Robinson and Kevin Carroll, the founders and former leaders of the EDL, to actually leave the organisation and to move towards dialogue. And and go back to a more sensible position, because they started off campaigning against Muslim extremists and then broadened out to campaigning against all Muslims basically, and all mosques, and attacking Islam and Muslims generally. And that's led to violence and an increase of Islamophobia in this country. And what we managed to help convince them, not only us, other Muslim groups and leaders also, but especially they like what we said, because we challenge extremism also, is that, look, the problem is extremists, and Muslim extremists in particular, who we're all against, and we shouldn't be promoting racist or Islamophobic views or tarring all people with the same brush. And you know, they accepted that, and they saw that. They stepped down from the EDL. Many of the EDL divisional leaders have followed suit since then. So the interim leader of the EDL actually is also stepping down. Many of the regional leaders have also left the organisation and are now talking to Muslims for the first time. So with Tommy Robinson, for example, we held a meeting in London at our offices where he met 20 Muslim leaders, and a few of them blogged about it, and you can see how they were encouraged by the dialogue. We then took 10 Luton Muslims, and in Luton we had 20 regional EDL leaders, along with 10 Muslims, who had a conversation which went on for 5 or 6 hours, and people wouldn't stop. And again, there's a write-up of that on our website by an Anglican priest, the Reverend Ruth Scott, who witnessed that conversation. So we've actually helped begin a conversation. You know, it's not an easy conversation, because you've got largely what you might call white working class, disgruntled people with lots of grievances who join or set up the EDL, and who are talking to Muslims who have their own problems. As Ghaffar has been talking about, you know, insular communities, ghettoisation, a lot of extremist propaganda within those groups. So it's a difficult conversation, but we see what we've managed to achieve over the last 6 or 8 months as a small step forward, and there's much more to do also. But it's certainly not you know, giving a platform to a neo-Nazi or to a racist or anything like that. Certainly somebody who formerly had very toxic views, but we do believe he's changed. Tommy Robinson, we do believe if people listen to his recent interviews, compare with the previous one, you can see a clear shift and a clear commitment to civilised and democratic dialogue. But we welcome your suggestions and you know, help and input on that. There's a very small Leicester EDL branch, we know also. I met a couple of their people who came to Luton actually, came to the Luton meeting to talk to Muslims there.
Generally, you know, we are very pro-dialogue. There's no one we won't speak to. You know, if Jihadism wants to speak to us, we are pro-dialogue on anyone. We don't wait for anyone. So wants to talk, we'll talk. Everyone has a right to express an opinion. Okay, any more questions?
Question?
Yeah. I was interested to hear what you said about the beginnings of the Islamicist movement in Egypt in the 1920s.
Yeah.
And you said they were influenced by European fascism, among other things.
Yeah.
I was interested about it because I hadn't realised that before. I know the Ba'athists are. I mean, the Ba'athists are fascists. They model themselves on the German Nazi Party. But the broader issue I want to raise with you is in your obviously very brief account of the rise of jihadism. I thought that you didn't really put any emphasis on the role of imperialism in all this, Western imperialism, because the fact of the matter is that in the countries where jihadist movements have grown strong, they have for very long been subject to Western imperialist interference in their affairs, political, economic, and cultural as well. So, I mean, I'm not a Muslim, I'm a communist, and I'm afraid the communists failed in many of those countries. They had powerful movements, and they failed to move forward, to fulfill the desires of the people. But it seems to me that I've got no sympathy whatsoever with jihadism, but I think it's understandable response, particularly with the absence of viable secular alternatives to Western imperialism. We look at the case of Afghanistan, and a remarkable case too, because these poor peasant farmers have defeated the most powerful military alliance in world history. It's an extraordinary achievement. I would have thought that's going to give great strength to jihadism in other places. What do you think?
I still don't think it's an acceptable response, and I strongly disagree with you there. I'm glad you accepted that communism hasn't worked, but it clearly doesn't work. It's totalitarian, it's just about as fascism as far as I'm concerned. Communism has responded to more deaths in the last century than any other political belief system. I would be ashamed to call myself a communist. In terms of, is this a reaction to imperialism? I think I did touch on that when I said a lot of what Seth Putnam was reacting to was American cultural influences in Egypt at the time. So I think that is something I have acknowledged. We as an organisation do acknowledge that it plays a role. But to do what you seem to be doing, which is what many communists and far leftists do, which is seek to instrumentalise this kind of Muslim anger for your own kind of parochial political reasons, is, I think, a very dangerous game to play. George Galloway is the master of it, by the way. It's a very dangerous game to play. Because what you're doing is you're undermining agency within Muslims. You're saying these people are capable of having their own political ideas, they're capable of developing their own thoughts, their own visions. I think jihadism, and seems to have emerged anyway, has it, whether there was imperialism or not. It allowed their recruitment, it allowed them to better recruit, because they could use some of these foreign policy influences. But at the same time, their moral outrage is hypocritical. It's very selective. And this is where you have to pause it down and say, okay, are they really motivated by anger with Western foreign policy? Because if that was the case, why is there no outrage for what happens in Darfur when they themselves are the imperialists killing people? Why was there no outrage about what happened in East Timor when it was actually the Muslim majority Indonesian government imperializing a Catholic majority country? There's no mention of these things. And if you look at Al-Qaeda's manifesto, it's not about defending land, it's about conquering land, it's about taking back Spain, taking back India, conquering countries, conquering the West. So it's a very proactive agenda. It's not, let's defend ourselves and then be peaceful. It's no, let's conquer other people, let's kill other people, let's kill moderate Muslims, let's kill gays, let's kill Jews. So you can't say this is just a kind of a natural response to imperialism. That would be a very shallow analysis. But that is not to say that imperialism and Western foreign policy in the past have not played a role in galvanizing movements. But we have to contextualize that role it played, and not give it too much prominence. That's my response.
Question? Yes, Frank.
I've always been very curious with 9/11 and other Al-Qaeda.
You're not a truth, are you?
Huh?
Not a truth, are you?
About 9/11
Yeah.
is that no one admitted responsibility. They didn't use it as a publicity vehicle for saying we did this. The reason why we did this was X, Y, Z. They didn't. They kept quite quiet about who, in fact, committed that atrocity. Now, why do you think that Al-Qaeda keeps quiet about when they do commit atrocities and don't say anything?
Yeah,
Don't admit it.
I'll clarify that. They initially kept quiet. And they initially kept quiet because they were shocked by the response. There were attacks in USS Cole a few years previously. Their response to nuclear missiles in Afghanistan. They were shocked by the level of response. The response was, let's go invade an entire country. Let's completely destroy Al-Qaeda. That took them back slightly. And the Taliban at the time were playing the game of, well, prove it's been that, prove Al-Qaeda did it. And they told them to be quiet. Don't forget, Al-Qaeda were against the Taliban at the time. They couldn't jump out and say, hey, it was us going to get us. It was not the right thing to do. When war was declared, when America decided it was going into Afghanistan, then they just come out and say, yes, it was us. But now there are actually videos of Bin Laden saying, we have planned this operation. And details and documents of the planning have also been found in Afghanistan. So it didn't become a secret after that initial 2-3 months. But it was initially, okay, we probably overstretched here, I'll do this time. So if you followed it closely, there was that confession, and now they're very proud of it. Now they talk very openly about it. And in any journalist talk very proudly, and people talk about, yeah, it's listed, now funding, and we've got Harley Sheikh Mohammed, who's confessed to being behind the whole master plan. So in time it all came out. It just didn't come out straight away. It wasn't a classical statement the next day saying, how we did that. It wasn't one of those. Well, if you followed what happened over the next 2 years, it all came out.
Can I just add to that? Yeah, as Ghaffar said, some months after 9/11, Al-Qaeda did release a video called the Magnificent 19, for example, glorifying the operation, and included in that were suicide videos, if you like, the martyrdom videos of some of the hijackers, actually talking about how it's time to take the war into the heartland of America itself, rather than kind of local, away from the near enemy to the far enemy. So for those of us who followed a lot in detail, as we did, some of us did, it's very clear, and there's enormous evidence that they did openly take responsibility and celebrate it.
You have a question? Yes?
I was wondering when you were talking earlier about almost second generation searching for that identity, how do you account for converts? For example, like Andrew Chadwick's group is largely, a lot of them are converts, Christian converts mainly.
Yeah.
How do you account for that, for grabbing a sort of conservative jihadist approach?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. You don't have to be a Muslim to an identity crisis, and a lot of converts, a lot of ones I've spoken to, do have their own identity crisis, but for different reasons. It's not the dynamic I discussed. That was a very kind of Muslim, almost very South Asian dynamic. But a lot of the converts I've met have their own issues with understanding themselves, having their place in the world, not finding a network of people that they can relate to. I mean, I actually met the brother Richard Dott, who's now in jail for trying to blow the Olympic Park. And it's before you made a documentary from my brother, the Islamists, he consulted me and we had a coffee together, and he said, my brother's always been searching for something. He's always been searching for some sort of meaning. He's not satisfied with his life. And he's always been in search for something else, something that he doesn't quite feel comfortable with what he has. But you have to remember what these organisations give you. If you join Loma 100 tomorrow, you would instantly have a network of friends all over the country. People that are prepared to put you up for the night, people that are prepared to pay for your meals, people that can arrange a wedding for you if that's why you want to get married, people that will give you lifts, people that will probably help you find a job. You've got an instant, ready-made network of friends. And if you're alone now, and if you're struggling with your sense of identity, you've got an instant network of friends, you've got instant sense of identity, strong sense of identity, instant cause that you're part of, weekly activities that you're part of. It's all there. Everything you've lacked is there, instantly ready-made package for you. And for some people, that's incredibly empowering. That's what they're looking for. So the dynamic with converts is a different dynamic. I haven't done enough research on it, but I think it's similar issues. I think it is that sense of rootlessness, but for different reasons.
Frank?
Yeah. Two questions, if I may.
Yeah.
What sort of relationships or activity is there between Quilliam and the Council of the ex-Muslim Council? That's the first one. And the second one is your rabid anti-communism a personal view, or is it part of the philosophy and principles of Quilliam?
We're very proud of my rabid anti-communism, actually.
I know that.
I would say it's probably a personal view. One I'm very proud to express on a regular basis, and I think it's based on facts and reality, based on the chaos communism has caused over the past 60 years now in all over the world. It continues to cause in many countries, subjecting people to abject poverty,
I feel this is the part of the lecture you're really enjoying. Carry on.
In my element, talking about evil communism.
Yes.
Yes. For a very long time. Well, it's a personal point of view. It's not an official Quilliam position. Quilliam promised democracy, promised liberalism, promised freedom of belief, which communism doesn't, by the way. So that is our perspective. And the second question, we don't have any formal relationship with the Council of Muslims. We speak to them as friends. I've spoken at one of their events, conferences before, but as an organisation, we don't have any official affiliation or connection with them.
Thank you.
Alan?
It's a very complicated, interesting area that you've been talking about. Bedeviled by the tendency for human beings to polarize and use that polarization for their own, in this case, political purposes. And I think part of the battle is to engage in dialogue so that we recognise the complexity of human approaches to different issues. education is going to be very important in this, and this is where we are looking at things from the wrong direction in this country. We are introducing more faith schools, and a faith school permits the governing body to teach its own religion. It's not under the supervision of the local committee on religious education, which is unsatisfactory in the first instance, but it's the idea that humanity must be derived from a religion is being built into the structure of education in this country. It's very difficult to get an overall view that enables children to view evolution, not just biological, but social and psychological, and the development of religions as a response of communities to human needs. It's very difficult to get them to experience this sort of development in their education when you're breaking up humanity into separate religions and then trying to put them together. So that's one of the problems that I see, that we must encourage dialogue. We must encourage face-to-face relationships between people with different views. And in my area of Leicester in Evington, we are promoting that. So that I've been introduced to a mosque by the Imam as an atheist friend of religions. Well, of course, I'm highly critical of religions. I don't adopt them, but I regard them as a natural development in human evolution in a social sense. And just to stop my rambling on forever, let me just say what happened. I was challenged by a man who is a very liberal Muslim in many ways, but I was challenged over the matter of the Jesus and Mo cartoons, and he was very much taking the position of being affronted, and we've got to do something about them. And we argued for a while. And what has finished off the argument is I said to him, what would Muhammad have done in this situation? Now, I've still got to meet him, but it strikes me, let me just add one other thing about your communism. I was at a meeting last week.
They've been all communists.
There are different views of both religions and communism. Okay. But the existence of an Anglo-Catholic priest in Leicester who has been associated with communists in the Philippines and still describes himself as a theist, Anglo-Catholic priest in the Church of England who is a staunch communist. Now that's a different sort of communism from what you're thinking of. And we've got to dig into these sort of bits and expose them.
You are rambling on tonight.
Yes.
I am
on specifically on the faith schools matter, I mean, Quilliam's got no official position on faith schools. My own view is I'm a secularist. I don't believe in faith schools. I would never send my children to a faith school. I believe I want my children to have an education that is secular, and I want them to mix with a wide variety of people of different faith and their faith background. That's my own personal view. I don't know if someone's got a view on that issue.
Very quickly, I think schools should be a microcosm and should prepare people for the society around them. In fact, one of the founders of Muslim faith school in this country, the late Sheikh Zaki Badawi, towards the end of his life, he admitted that his setting up Islamic school as an experiment had failed, and he was in favour of multi-faith schools, which I would widen to include, non-faith humanist approaches, for example, because I entirely agree with you. We have to get children to see different points of view, as well as perhaps learn particular traditions, if you like. And I think I learned religion at home in mosque, but I really value the fact that I went to Christian ethos school, which is what they were in the 80s London, but the fact is I was exposed to different and challenging viewpoints with Christians, Jews, Hindus, atheists and others, and that's very important, I think.
Michael?
Yeah, sorry to return to the same topic, but you say you reject communism. I just wondered if you do actually acknowledge there are different strands of communism and different sorts of people within. It's not necessarily state communism. The other thing is, what do you support? I mean, do you support the sort of bourgeois democracy we have, which, for instance, in the case of the United States, in the last 60 years has bombed over 30 countries? Is that what you accept?
Russia, what did Russia do with the communist state? I'm trying to use practical examples. I mean, it's not about what America has done. That's not the America is not my ideal state in the world. I believe in liberalism. I believe people, and this is the reason why I oppose communism, is communism denies people the right to believe and practice religions and different belief systems. It uses the state as a tool to socially engineer certain types of citizens. It undermines the human spirit by allowing people to only create so much wealth in a very classic kind of Bolshevik, Stalinist communism. I think that's very dangerous. We're talking about social democracy. Talking about the distribution of resources, I'm all for that, okay? I'm a labour voter, okay? I believe in the distribution of resources. I believe in protecting the most vulnerable. I believe in, not allowing too much power and wealth to be concentrated in so few hands, as is the case in the US and India and certain other states. But my interpretation of communism is not that. Communism is a dictatorship where one man gets to decide what everyone else should think. And I think it's fundamentally dangerous and evil.
It's not communism.
Well, that's what Stalin did, and that's what I've been in North Korea, and that's what I've been in China as well.
Make John's question the last one, the tea is a bit.
In your talk,
There's no more questions about communism.
You suggested that we could help, in other words, overcome extreme Islam, and there are other extremes I'm sure we want to combat as well. In what specific way do you think that we can actually help? Because as secularists, we are demonised by, I suggest, the proportion of the Muslim population. So it's quite difficult to get engaged. So is this are there any specific areas you think we can help?
It's interesting that one of the consciousness raises that we're involved with is exactly what Sam spoke about. Is our conception of secularism is not. We don't think secularism is atheism. We think secularism is just detachment of church and state. Yeah. The state should be neutral when it comes to religion. That's what we mean by secularism. And we believe that you can be a devout Muslim, a devout Christian, and be a secularist. Right? That's what I believe. Now, the problem we have is a deliberate attempt in many Muslim communities to associate secularism with anti-religion, anti-religious kind of Dawkins-esque atheism. There's been a deliberate attempt to create that association. So in Urdu, for example, the word for secularism is la diniyat, which means no religion. The literal translate secularism has no religion. So you imagine going to Pakistan saying, I want no religion. That's not what secularism is. Whereas if you go to Bangladesh, it means religiously neutral. It's got a much more positive connotation. So part of the battle we're involved with is saying actually secularism is essential. And especially if you're a minority community in the UK, secularism works to your advantage. It's secularism that allows you to build mosques. It's secularism that allows you to practice Islamic secularism in the UK. You should be thanking the state for secularism, thanking them not in a Christian country in the classical sense. In terms of how you can help, we're engaged in many wider debates. It's not just about challenging extremists. Many wider debates, like the Jihadism, like the evolution debate we spoke about. And it would just be nice to see more voices in this debate, whether in the media, whether writing. A colleague over there writes some fantastic articles on these issues, and just be more vocal, so people can see that there are. We don't want to look like a minority. But we don't think defending secularism and liberalism in 2014 should be a minority position, and it's quite sad that that's a minority position. That should be the default position, and there's not more people defending those values. So in a way, you can really.
Thank you. Well, Harry, you're very persistent. Okay, let's go on before we have the tea.
Follows on from John's question, and that is that in Leicester we assume there must be Islamists and jihadists here, but they never write for the Leicester Mercury. They never appear on Radio Leicester. We are not invited to go to any mosque. You may know which mosques in Leicester are of that ilk. So it's impossible for us really to engage with them. as I say, we presume they're working here in kind of within the community. So, you know, what can be done?
I don't know the specifics of Leicester, to be honest, so I don't know if somehow there's a little how Leicester managed.
What I would suggest is if you could try to reach out to some of the mosques and perhaps invite a speaker here. So for example, Ibrahim Mulgrew is a relatively moderate. You've had him,
We've had lots. We get the speakers in, the leaders. We never get
the people,
ordinary Muslims crossing our threshold.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that would be.
We don't get return invitations to talk to the mosque.
Yeah, well, the mosques are trying to get there. Well, it's partly because of what he said. You know, well, you've had one. You know, person introduced as an atheist friend of religion. So you've had one person, Alan. Alan spoken in the mosques. I would say keep trying, especially with the younger generation. I mean, the new Oadby Mosque, I think there's some potential there. There was one of the imams there, he was a younger imam, he was one of my students actually. He was forced out of that mosque as well, but that was just for practical kind of reasons.
Especially those found your own sect.
Yeah, well, yeah, found our own liberal mosque. But I would say please keep persevering, especially with the younger leadership, and you just need one or two kind of inroads into the mosque, because there are dozens of mosques in Leicester, aren't there? And you just need one or two to build a relationship with and hopefully get return invitations and take it from there.
Well, thanks so much, both of you.